Guys. We'll call the Board of Public Works meeting of Monday, July 20th to order. Number 2, approval of minutes of July 6th. Motion by Mr. Barkender, second by Mr. Fire. Comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, motion carries. Citizens' comments. Doesn't look like we have anybody to speak to that. Next would be construction update. We'll start with Chris Hawley, Street Superintendent. Chris.
Good evening, everybody. I want to start my construction update with a staff update. We did interviews on Friday, July 10th in the morning. We had scheduled for 5 interviews. One guy backed out at the last minute. We interviewed 4 people, and we have 2 excellent candidates right now that we're doing background checks on. So hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have an update on you to get us back up to full staff. Some notable accomplishments since the last time we met. The first round of the asphalt maintenance program is completed. We did chip sealing with Farner Asphalt. The next round of asphalt maintenance program is going to be the asphalt rejuvenator program, and that's going to start on Wednesday. Crack filling for concrete is now on the schedule for mid to late August. Asphalt mill in place projects, just to let you guys know, per lineal foot, we're over halfway done, but I want to note that some of these projects that we have left, the ditching and drain tiling is already completed. So this next half of our mill in place projects should move right along. North Hills black dirting is completed. Touch-ups needed to be done yet due to the heavy rains. It just doesn't seem to just rain normal anymore. When every time we get rain, we get an inch of rain in an hour or half hour. So we're working on that. Wood Street up there in the Northern Hills subdivision, they were back up there today, and that should be completed tomorrow. Hopefully it won't rain. Fairview, 4th and Mulberry, and Locust and 13th. Oh, actually, Fairview, 4th and Mulberry are being asphalt bindered as we speak. They're out there right now. Locust and 13th binder was completed on Saturday. 29 leftover projects that needed black dirting or touch-ups are now completed, with the exception of Ives. So what we've decided to do out there is we talked to Haynes Geo, the engineer at Haynes Geo, and we purchased some erosion mat that we'll put in the flow line there. It's a biodegradable erosion mat that they'll put down, they'll cover up with black dirt to hopefully hold those ditches on especially the south side where most of the flow is on Ives between Lincoln and Schmidt. And we're hoping that's the last time we have to be out there. Asphalt overlays. Peach is now completed. Our painting truck pump engine that runs the painter blew up a week ago, so we had to replace that engine, a 15 horsepower engine, but that is back up and running. And talked to the guys this evening, and they have about 99% of the painting out on Peach done. The 14th overlay concrete work is going to be done this week, and we will be pushing American Asphalt to get in there either later this week or early next week to get that street opened up also. McMillan overlay is now scheduled to be started on July 27th. Wood County is letting us borrow their electronic signboards, and we'll pick them up tomorrow. So we're going to give the public some advance notice of that project coming up starting tomorrow. Actually, Phil Schmidt, the supervisor in charge of that project, has gone out and put door hangers already last week and talked to many of the businesses and landowners and came up with a plan for each business or landowner to how to access in and out. So he came up with a really good plan for them. So people, for instance, on the east side will be able to get out a certain way. People in the middle can get out a certain way. And then, of course, the Pheasant Prairie Run subdivision, we're going to shoot them right across on Adams to get them out of there. Downwind Drive is now completed out by the new MAPS building. I haven't been out there lately to see how, if the site has been black dirted or anything yet, but the road is now completed. Adler Road reconstruction will be done tomorrow. We do have a sewer and lateral upgrade to do at the vacant lot on the north side that we're going to be doing tomorrow also. And we're working with American Asphalt. We'll know more on Wednesday morning on when we'll be able to pave that and open it up to through traffic. But once we get the road base back down, it'll be open to local traffic only. But hopefully by early to mid week next week, it'll be paved and painted, and we'll be out of there. Some other things that we did for the park and rec, the ditching up by the Upper Pond Zoo Road. I don't know if anybody's been up there lately, but that road was in pretty tough shape. They actually got the finished binder or finished coat of asphalt on that today too. Otherwise, the ditches and drain tile are completed, and park and rec will be restoring the black dirting and ditches out there. So all in all, a good couple of weeks. Mother Nature hasn't been real kind to us with these heavy rains that come down, but we seem to be getting through it. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Bargander.
Thank you. You had mentioned about concrete crack filling starting towards the end of August. How much time are you going to be putting in doing crack filling?
It's the hot asphalt that goes in the so that'll only probably take them a couple days to do some streets that we want to do there. Now the other part of the concrete, I think, Ken, what you're talking about is later on in the fall, we want to do some of these where we got the wider joints yet. And we want to target those as time comes up in the fall. So the product the process we used on Peach and 14th and that we're going to use on McMillan also was we had Chippewa Concrete come in and grind that out, and then we replaced it back in concrete. I'd like to see a cost and set out some spots for him to try that out, especially on like St. Joe's, North Central, over up by the Shopco Lodge is pretty bad there, and see if we can get something done with those two.
Yeah, because there are just a number of those concrete streets that have 2 to 4, 5, 6 inches cracks in those. Yep. And then you mentioned that you're going to start the project on McMillan, the asphalt overlay. So that'll be detoured? Yes. And you didn't mention the detour, where the detour is going?
Well, I'm working with the engineering department right now as we talk. Tim Cassidy, the assistant city engineer, is going to have that plan over to me tomorrow, he said, and then I will send out a public notice along with the normal way to communicate.
Because that's, practically one of the most traveled roads in the city of Marshfield.
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean,
that's why we went ahead and we were actually looking at renting some message boards from Rent a Flash or some other companies, and ended up getting a hold of Wood County, and they have 2 of them that aren't in use right now, and they won't charge us for them. Right. And I just found out today that the state actually owns them, and they'll be looking to upgrade them. So we'll possibly see if we can purchase those on the auction site sometime next spring. I think they're a valuable asset to let people know, especially on a project like that, to let people know that, hey, this is going to be closed starting Monday, July 27th. So
thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Chris. Next, we'll have city engineer Tom Churchy give the construction update. Tom.
Okay, we'll start with the Cleveland Street project. Cleveland Street from Central Avenue to Walnut Avenue. All the underground work is done. All the concrete work is now complete within these limits. We're working with Earth to complete the fine grading and getting it scheduled for the first look of asphalt in these first 2 blocks. Cleveland Street, Walnut to Daggy Street. The underground utility work is scheduled to begin shortly. They are currently working on the underground utility work on Pine Avenue from Blodgett to Cleveland, and that is nearing completion. I have some photos that are enclosed for that if you had any questions. The sanitary interceptor relocation project, Van Hay Waters, the design and specifications are nearing completion. We'll be bidding this one out shortly. Sanitary sewer extension on Fry Court. We are under design with that one right now. Sanitary sewer lining contract is now approximately 60% complete. We have Vision Sewer is going to leave for several weeks and then be coming back. Water utility projects, or Galvin Avenue Street project is complete. Downwind Drive is scheduled for August 17th. And 26th Street, Maywood to Washington is scheduled to be in this week. And then we have some miscellaneous things that we're dealing with. Recently, Oak Avenue, we had a sinkhole up here, and it's in a 30-inch diameter corrugated metal culvert pipe that was installed in 1975. So we're going to have to dig this one, replace that. It's about 46 feet long, and there was actually a platted street in this area at one point that was vacated at some point. So that pipe was there when the street was still in existence. And then finally on Veterans Parkway and Peach Avenue, we had a vehicle take out the guardrail on the light pole. And so we have to schedule the repairs for that. And since our crews don't really have the equipment to put the poles and stuff in, we have worked in the past with Wood County, and we're looking at trying to see if they will work with us to get this repair completed. Are there any questions on the items I had brought forward?
Mr. Bargander.
Yeah, that the accident scene, what was the estimated cost of damage
For the guardrail?
for the project to replace all the guardrail, everything I see in this picture, in these 4 pictures or 6 pictures?
I don't have an estimate right offhand.
Okay.
Chris, you got information?
I don't have the estimate yet, Mr. Bargander, but I did get a hold of Wood County. The county engineer was coming to take a look at it last week sometime. They had just got done doing the bridge inspection on it, like 2 days prior to that, and there's a chunk of concrete out of that. So I don't know if it's structurally damaged or not. I wouldn't think so, but I do have that contact out there, and he'll let us know. And they do have the accident report number, so I'm assuming it's going to go right to his insurance company.
Sure. Thank you.
I did verify, I had read the accident report. The driver had insurance, so that's a good thing for us.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Tom. Number 5, award bids for Aquatic Center project presented by Justin Casperson, Park and Recreation Director. Justin.
All right, thank you, and good evening. First, I want to start with an update on the budget to kind of give you guys an idea where we're at. It's also in your packet. So far to date for donations, we've received $3.37 million. That still increases almost daily. That's why it's an estimate. It keeps going up. People are still very generous and excited about the project. The city's portion is still at $3.5 million to give us all in at $6.8 million. Expenses, facility construction and contingency, that's the bids, that's at $5.9 million. Owners' fees and charges, these are things that are typically not a bid out item, but something to take in consideration that we have to do. Asbestos testing, fiber optic, electric, gas, things of that nature. That's $298,000. The soft cost, which were referred to earlier this fall, which is $517,000 to give us an all-in at $6.7 million. Bids were opened up by Bozen on July 7th. The categories and the amounts can be found in Exhibit 1. There's various numbers there. There was also 5 alternates that were submitted, but they were not included in the project estimates at this time. We will consider those once we receive enough donations to cover those costs, but at this time, we may add them. We have time on our side momentarily, but just like everything, time doesn't stand still. So as those things get closer, we'll have to make decisions. But right now, we're not considering them part of the project. The project's estimated expenses are currently less than the estimated revenues by $83,000. The bids were within our estimated range, and all the bidders and companies received favorable references, with revenues exceeding expenses. Bozen and staff feels comfortable moving forward with the project. Tonight with us, we have Joe from the Bozen Company, who will review the actual bid categories and the alternates. So Joe, if you could come on up here and talk to those.
My name is Joe Dolzo with the Bozen Company, the construction manager for the new Vandahay Waters Outdoor Aquatic Center. Tonight, I'll review the bid categories and the number of bidders that we had in each category and the low bidder. Starting with final cleaning, we received 2 bids for that, and Clean Power was the low bidder. Site work and utilities, we received 4 bidders for that category. Joint Earthwork or Excavating is the low bidder on that. They were involved in the library project and the Wenzel Plaza. So, and obviously, you know, they've been around forever. So great to have them in the position they're in. Site work or site concrete, there were 3 bids in that category. And the low bidder in that was Tri-City Concrete. We did reference checks on that company and everything turned out very well. They actually were low on 2 other categories as well, which is a bit farther down, footings and foundations and the slab on grade. But again, good references for all that. The next category, asphalt paving, 1 bid, American Asphalt, and very good pricing from them on that category. The temporary fence and permanent fencing, there were 3 bids in that category, and American Fence. If a most recent project that they did, if you've been by the high school, the softball and baseball fencing looks beautiful. They're on that job right now. Landscaping, there were 3 bids in that category. Shallows was the low bidder for that, and they do a great job. So glad to have them in that position. Rebar, there was 1 bid for the rebar, and that was for site concrete as well as building concrete, Hatch Building Supply. I mentioned earlier about the footings and foundations, 3 bids for footing foundation and slab on grade. 3 bids for that category went to, or the low contractor is Tri-City Concrete. Again, very good reference for that company. Masonry went to MV Services. There were 3 bids for that category, and that mason did the library as well as Wenzel Plaza. So you're familiar with his work. The steel, there were 3 bids for the steel. Not a lot of steel on the job, but that went to Nick's Welding. They do a lot of projects in the area in central Wisconsin. Steel installation, there was 1 bid for that category, J&L Steel. They erected all the structural steel on the library, and on this project, there's not a lot for the building. There's a couple beams and some grading, and then we do have a pavilion that they would erect. Automated products. As far as for the wood trusses for the building, that was a clear donation for the project, so that's wonderful. Interior architectural casework, there were 5 bidders for that category, and Trimpack in town here was low on that category. The insulation for the project, and that's mainly all blown attic insulation, there were 2 bidders for the category, and E&B insulation was low. The roofing for the pool house, there were 5 bids for that category. A-Team Construction out of Madison was low in that category. All the bids were really close, so we felt very good with that bunch. Steel doors and frames and aluminum framed entrances. The low bidder, there were 4 bids in that category, and Tri-City Glass and Door. If you've been in the industrial park, they did the Prevention Genetics building, so you know what they're capable of, and they've been around forever. So that was good to see. Gypsum drywall. On the project, we have a ceiling in the pool house, and there's at the main entrance, there's some high walls that have some drywall up in that area too. But it's mainly ceiling work. There were 4 bidders in that category, and Cool Drywall. They were the steel stud and drywall contractor on the library project, so very capable, and all the bids were really close for that. The hard tile for the project, there were 2 bids in that. Jaguar Tile was low. I've been working with them for over 30 years, and it's a small category, so that's good to see. The ceilings for the project, there were 6 bids. Appleton Acoustical, very close bidding. All of them are almost pennies apart, so that was very good to see as well. And then flooring, which is actually vinyl base, there were 2 bids for that category, and Jaguar Tile was low on that as well. The finishes or painting for the project, there were 4 bidders on that, and Pine Valley Paint from Neelsville was low on that. They've been working in and around the area for over 30 years. So they'll be a great contractor to have there. The interior signage, there were 8 bidders on that category. Construction supply was low. Again, they were involved in the library project on and off. The exterior signage, there were 7 bids on that category. Stratford Sign was low on that. And again, they were involved on the library project, and you've seen all of their work in and around the community and other communities near us. The miscellaneous specialties, Division 10, bathroom accessories, those sorts of things. There were 6 bidders on that. Construction supply was low again. Same thing with fire extinguishers. 4 bidders on that. Construction supply was low. Lockers and benches, there's some interior lockers for the lifeguards, and there's a few plastic outdoor lockers on the pool deck. And we had 2 bidders for that category. Marshfield Book and Stationery was low on that. The swimming pools itself, the 2 vessels, just up to the walls of the pool themselves. There were 4 pool contractors that bid on that. PPC Pools was low. We did have very good references. I talked to 3 contractors that have used them recently, and the bid was sent over to the engineer for the project, and he reviewed it, scrubbed it, and he felt good about having them on the project as well. Shade structures, there was only 1 bid for that, commercial recreational specialist. It was the bid that we included. That was a closed bid category because we wanted the exact shade structures that were used in the past. The amount was verified by the architect, and that was normally what they see for that sort of group of material. The pavilions for the pavilion for the project, there were 2 of those, and RCP shelters was low. That's material only. That would be, again, erected by J&L Steel, which I discussed earlier. Under plumbing, there were 4 bids for that. PGA was low. They've worked in the area for over 30 years, and I scrubbed their bid myself, and be excited to have them on the job as well. HVAC, there were 7 heating and cooling bids on the job, and Ron's Refrigeration from Wisconsin Rapids was low. Again, they've worked in and around our community for over 30 years. Electrical, there were 6 electrical bids that came in, and Total Electric was low, and great to have them on the job. And then on food service, there was 1 bid for food service from Strike Equipment, and that's for the concessions area. And they did give a very good breakdown that possibly the user of the concession area could pick and choose what they need. But right now, we've included exactly what's shown in the kitchen equipment specification for filling up that space. As Justin mentioned earlier, we have 5 add alternates for the project. The first one that we would need to act on if the budget allows would be removing or omitting the asphalt shingles and installing a metal roof. We're probably going to have to make a decision on that sometime early October. The last 4 could be decided after the first of the year. There's a post and rope wall separating the pavilion from the pool area, and we would like to change that back to a masonry wall with a precast seat. The showers on the project have curtains. We're thinking about changing the curtains to a solid plastic door, and the perimeter fencing around the project has a rubber weed mat under the fence, 12 inches wide, so that weed whipping wouldn't occur. And we could upgrade that to a 12-inch concrete mow strip. And the last item would be to add a water softener to the project. The engineer thought it would help slightly, but didn't think we really needed it. So those were the 5 alternates. And again, the last 4, we need to decide after the first of the year. But the roof, since we want water tightness before Christmas, we would need to make that decision earlier. With the pandemic and everything that's been underway, we had really good bid coverage in all the categories. And And the numbers came in matching our budget or even slightly below where we anticipated.
Anybody have any questions for Joel or Justin? Mr. Bargander?
Thank you. Earlier you mentioned that the wood trusses were donated by Automated Product. What was the estimated cost if we had to purchase those trusses? Did you know?
About 22,000.
So essentially they donated about $22,000. Thank you. I just want to make that known to the public. Thank you.
Mr. Fire?
On that metal
No, it's a standing seam roof. So it's not a screw down, all concealed fastener.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, the recommended approval to award bid to the bosun at the amount of 5.970277 as detailed in Exhibit 1. Do I have a motion? Mr. Rosendich, second by Mr. Fire. Comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Justin and Joel. Number 6, approval of certified survey map and resolution 2020-33 for Aquatic Center site, presented by Dan Connect, Director of Public Works. Dan.
Thank you. Can't rotate the screen, so you're looking at it upside down on the screen. But essentially, the site for the pool needs a zoning change, so that's triggering a certified survey map to create a separate lot for the pool. The two uses, the pool and the commercial utilities, have coexisted on the same site for a long time, but our current zoning code doesn't recognize those two uses as compatible on the same zoning. So our development services staff recommending a zoning change for the pool. That is going through the Plan Commission process starting tomorrow night and will be coming to the council for approval. So tonight, all we're asking the board to do is recommend approval of this certified survey map that lays out the boundaries for the pool. Recommend your approval this evening.
Motion. Mr. Fire, second. Mr. Bargander, comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 7, consideration of pavement markings for downtown walking loop, presented by Dan Connect, Director of Public Works, and Kaylee Gomez from Main Street. Dan.
All right, we're going to put the technology to the test here a little bit. Kaylee is on via Zoom, and I'll introduce this topic and she'll give you the details. So as Mr. Butke mentioned, Main Street has been looking at a walking route that would connect the park, ball fields with downtown and encourage walking during events at the park. And this 2-mile route would have pavement markings on the sidewalk, similar to what Healthy Lifestyles has done in the past with some of the walking routes they've developed around the schools. They're also looking at doing some markings on crosswalks that would be a little bit more unique and provide a little bit of fun along the route. So with that, Kaylee, if you can hear us, I'll ask you to join in and offer anything else that I have not covered yet.
Thank you, Dan. And is just so I understand, am I on the screen and people have packets in front of them right now?
Yes.
You are not on the screen, but the packet of information you sent me is on the screen.
Okay, great.
I can scroll to whatever drawing you'd like to show or talk about. I can scroll to.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much. So right now I'm on page 23 of the packet, and that's a map route.
Yep.
Okay, so if everyone's looking right now, you can see that it's a 2-mile kind of loop. It starts at the information kiosk that we installed this year at the ball field, kind of central location right in front of the parking lot. So you could park, access the kiosk, and then walk from there down 2nd Street, come down, kind of loop past the far side of the plaza, going down Chestnut, go down 4th Street, come down get down to Veterans Park, hopefully have some sort of an activity set up there for the season, like a seek and find or a scavenger hunt, something that would stay there as an installation in Veterans Park, which would also encourage park use. And then come down Central a little bit further and then loop all the way back to the kiosk. So the idea is we are encouraging families, whether they are here for the ball fields for a ball game or just they're locals and are looking for something that's free and easy to do with their kids. We're open to kind of taking out that little loop that goes in Chestnut Avenue. That was just added in to make it an even 2 miles, but it really doesn't need to be that. The biggest reason that we wanted to use this walk was to encourage people to walk past our downtown storefronts at this time. We are encouraging downtown businesses to use the prowl more than ever before, so that sidewalk space that they can apply to use in front of their business, as well as, you know, get those things in their windows, changing storefront displays. And then we're also starting to print custom posters for businesses that indicate what you can expect as someone walking into a business and then knowing what you can expect in a different business. So is a mask required? Is a mask recommended? Is a mask just not necessary at all? And what kind of procedures they have in place considering the pandemic right now, so that as people are passing by both sides of Central Avenue, they're getting exposure to hopefully lots of window displays, engaging storefronts, and then what they can expect at every store as they start to recognize that posters are in more than one window, but they're really easy to read and understand. And then when they get down to the Veterans Park, it's just great to see they're getting exposed to 3 parks as they're walking downtown. They'll be in the Stephen J. Miller area, they'll walk past the Wenzel Family Plaza, and then they would engage in something at the halfway-ish point at Veterans Park. We've thought about putting a few things in the trees where, you know, maybe 25 little airplanes, toy airplanes in the trees. And if you can find all 25, maybe take a family selfie, hashtag it, and there's some sort of a drawing to track traffic. That part has not quite been figured out yet, but the big ask that we have for the Board of Public Works is to be able to paint the sidewalks similar to Apple Walking Path, because this is a little bit bigger of a space and it's covering so much public pedestrian walkway. We're looking at some images that aren't as bright as the apples and probably not in the middle of the sidewalk, but it would be something kind of on the side of the sidewalk so that if you're doing this trek, you kind of know where you're going anyway. We'd have a sign installed at the ball fields kiosk, and then we have another sign installed at the halfway point at Veterans Park to just kind of indicate, yes, you've reached the halfway point. Remember, here's what the map looks like. You can follow the trail. You'll see these markings, but they'll be thought to also be looking for them. And then we would also encourage along the way just to kind of look for things like Marshfield Rocks. We've noticed a lot more popping up downtown. So anything that we can do to engage people as they are coming from the ball fields or they're already downtown to go a little bit further and be exposed to more of our small businesses, that's really great. And then the second thing is we really want to experiment with those creative crosswalks that I think you'll see a little bit further in your packet. If you scroll to the next page, communities all over the country are starting to get creative with their crosswalks, partially as a traffic calming endeavor, and it does work from what we've heard from other communities, and also to add public art in a way that is just pretty quick and easy and cheap. It doesn't require all sorts of permissions on building walls or historic coverage. It's just a fun installation, and we thought this would be a great place to try it. There's not any crosswalk paintings there at this time. It's very probably underutilized, and we really want to see that traffic come down 2nd Street into the Wenzel Family Plaza and into our historic downtown district. So this would just be another thing to make that space more friendly, a little bit more appealing for a family to walk down that way. When you look down right now, it feels very industrial. It doesn't feel like a place that you would go naturally to walk, and you'd have no idea if you didn't know about the Wenzel Family Plaza. It's just 2 blocks away. So this is another way to encourage that. We thought we'd have some fun with some things that make sense for Marshfield too. A little life cycle of a frog and a little life cycle of a butterfly, considering the butterfly mural at the zoo and Marshfield Monarchs and some things that they've been doing, partnering with the city on that. These images are not exact to what they would be. We would make them much prettier. These are just some clip art images to give you an idea of what those crosswalks would look like. And that's kind of the gist of it. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Kaylee? Dan?
I just mentioned the crosswalk painting that Kaylee referenced would be on Second Street at Spruce Avenue and the Walnut Avenue crosswalk, not on Central where we have the colored pavement crosswalk, so it would be a good fit.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Otherwise, we're ready to vote. Mr. Fisher. Oh, okay, thank you. Motion by Mr. Fisher, second by Mr. Rosendich. Comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Sounds like a great project, Kaylee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 8, action on motion PW20-71 regarding approval of truck purchase for engineering division presented by Dan Connect, Director of Public Works, and Chris Hawley, Street Superintendent.
Yeah, I'll just start by introducing this. If you recall at our last meeting, there was a motion and a second to recommend approval of this truck purchase. It was tabled until this meeting. So once Chris is done with his presentation here and information, we will have to take action on that previous motion. Then if there is a new motion of some sort beyond that, that would be new for this meeting. But anyway, I think Chris has some good information for you, and I'll let him get away.
Thanks, Dan. After 2 weeks ago's meeting, Dan and I both got a hold of Rick, and we asked him what vehicles he has slated for this year. He's got 6 vehicles that are slated for this year. There are 4 of them are Chevy Tahoes, 1 Ford Explorer, and 1 Chevy Impala. And like we talked about at the last meeting, that the Tahoes don't really fit the needs of the engineering department. And then we asked them, well, do you have anything coming up yet? And they have 2 vehicles that they could reallocate this year yet that they plan on selling next year. One is a Tahoe again, and the other one is a 2017 Ram 1500 4-wheel drive. It currently has 62,000 miles on it. Kelly Blue Book value is $18,600 to $22,300. And I do have all the maintenance records on this piece of vehicle also, thanks to Pat. He dropped them off on Friday. Like I said, the one vehicle that would fit the needs of the engineering department would be the 2017 Ram 1500. This vehicle was maintained by V&H for the first 3 years, and now it's maintained by Associated Sales. After the 3-year warranty, it was up. Basically, tire changes, oil, regular maintenance. It was in 3 accidents. The first accident was backed into during a traffic stop. The second accident, it was used to disable a vehicle during a pursuit intervention technique. And the last accident, it was hit by another vehicle while trying to block a private entrance to a business. All 3 of these accidents I had front end damage, basically bumpers replaced, quarter panels, but from the accident reports that I seen in the equipment replacement that was done on them, it was nothing structural like tie rods or anything like that. Lights and front end damage, basically, and it ranged from anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 to repair. The PD did drop it off on I think it was Thursday morning, and had our fleet supervisor take a look at the vehicle. And it seemed pretty sound. It was, he checked out the front end specifically, and it was pretty sound. Like I said, the Kelly Blue Book value is between 18.6 and 22.3. It has a 5.5 foot box, and I contacted Monroe to see if they can get a highway product slide-in pack for that, for a 5.5 foot box. And yes, they can. It's just the same cost as the 6.5 foot box. They still have to manufacture it. With that, I don't know if Dan, if you had gotten any more information today from Rick then, or, but that's what we got.
I didn't have a chance to talk to Rick, but the last piece of the puzzle is what is the price on it? Because what would happen is the M&E fund would pay for the vehicle essentially as if they're buying it, and it would go into the emergency. I'm not thinking of the right term. Anyway, the capital projects funds for purchasing emergency equipment. So they'd have a little bit of seed money for their next vehicle. But in talking with Pat Zeps this afternoon, we're zeroing in on the lower end of the Kelly Blue Book range at 18.6. Because it's been in a few accidents and because these vehicles have some aftermarket equipment added on them, they have some extra holes in them where other vehicles don't normally have that. So they tend not to get the high end of the Kelly Blue Book just because they have a little bit more damage, if you will, from the equipment that gets mounted in those vehicles. I didn't have a chance to confirm that with the chief, but that is the number that we were zeroing in on, was 18.6. So if you compare that to what the new purchase was, 26 something for the new truck.
26.14, something like that, yeah.
Being a $7,500 savings.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, Dan, about the interiors kind of being refurbished on those, because they pretty much pull out the center console right out of those things, and then that's where they mount all their radio equipment. So it doesn't have a center console, but what he's storing there, I'm not sure.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Bargander.
Yeah, as all you know, I've been bringing this subject up here, and like I mentioned before, maybe this isn't the type of vehicle for this application, okay? But I know their new Fords they're running are aluminum bodies. They're not going to rust out. It seems to me like the biggest enemy to our fleet of most outside the PD is age and rust, right?
Correct.
Not mileage. I mean,
No.
The vehicle you're talking about replacing only has 36,000 miles. It's less than 2,000 miles a year. I mean, you don't really need a super low mileage vehicle, but you need as new as possible. That's what I'm saying. So, maybe in this case, I agree. We're not saving enough to warrant doing this, okay? But I think, I see in the city, there are other four-wheel drive crew cab pickups being used by other departments where maybe a year from now or whenever they're going to dispose of these Fords, maybe this Dodge, maybe next year, we want to look at this. I think we just need to get the ball rolling and at least consider this, okay? It may not work in every application, and I don't think it's going to work here. We're not saving enough. I think we should just go ahead and buy the new truck, okay? But maybe for some of these other things, for some of these other departments where we've already bought used vehicles, because I see the tags on the back from used car dealers here in town. Mm-hmm. Why not just use ours instead of buying, used vehicles? So, I just recommend maybe at this time, we just go ahead and buy this new truck. Thank you.
Dan?
Yeah, I think you're right on there, Ken, because we have some other vehicles that will be coming up for replacement. Engineering vehicles that Tom and his staff drive that don't require any specific equipment in the back. That could be anything. Right now, Tom has an old Chevy Impala, but it could be an Explorer, it could be a Durango, it could be a Yukon. But so those, I think, are ones that we would target for replacement down the line. Some of the trucks that we put in service have more of a specific need. I think a lot of what the street department buys are 3/4 tons. Probably aren't going to get a police vehicle to fit that bill. But there are some that will work, and I think we want to be a little bit more proactive going forward and looking for those, and we plan to do that. So I would like to just read the motion that was from the minutes at the last meeting. And if you want to take action on that specific motion, then you wouldn't need a second motion tonight unless that one doesn't pass. I'll get back to the minutes here. All right, so the motion from the last meeting was a motion by Fire, second by Rosendich, to recommend approval to purchase the 2021 Chevy Silverado 1500 from Wheelers and the Highway Products pickup pack from Monroe Truck Equipment for a total of $34,905. And just to break it down, the highway pack, the utility box in the back was just over $8,000. The vehicle itself was $6,000. So that's the motion that would be on the floor at this point.
Any comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion that Dan read, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I get back to my agenda. Okay, number 9, consideration of reduced speed limit on Adler Road, County Trunk Y from the west city limits to Sycamore Avenue, presented by Dan Connect, Director of Public Works. Dan.
Okay, earlier this spring, we were meeting with residents along Adler Road to talk about a proposed trail project running from Sycamore to Weber Park area. And during that discussion, the request was made that, geez, could that speed limit on Adler Road be reduced? It's currently 45 miles an hour coming in, changes to 35 at Sycamore and then 25 at Lincoln, and then going out goes from 35 to 45 also at Sycamore. So we said we would pursue that with Wood County, as that is still in the county jurisdiction, maintained for both maintenance and regulatory control. So I did reach out to the highway commissioner, and he indicated that they would typically support these types of requests if the municipality is in support. So I thought it'd be best to have some formal action from the Board of Public Works. If you concur that we would make this request to Wood County, did review this with the police chief, and he has indicated his support for that change. So the recommendation would be to direct staff to make a formal request to the Wood County Highway Committee to reduce that speed limit from 45 miles an hour to 35 from the west city limits to Sycamore.
Motion. Mr. Fisher, second by Mr. Barger. Comments or question? Mr. Barger.
Thank you, Chair. This is in my district, and I live just 2 houses off of Adler Road, so I'm very, very familiar traffic patterns out there. One other thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if this can be piggybacked onto this motion or not. I'd like to see parking removed from the south side of Adler Road from Sycamore to Locust. The reason being is A-Bears have volleyball and that sort of thing out there during the summertime, and people park on both sides of the street. It leaves a very narrow corridor between cars. If someone would happen to step out unexpectedly and a car's going through that between the cars, there would be really no place for that person to drive away from avoiding the pedestrian other than running into cars parked on the south side of the street. The other thing is, I'd like to see some reduced speed limit signs coming out of the township from the west. So because that's a 50, well, it'd be 55 speed limit with a recommendation of 40, I believe it's 40 or 45 on the curve. But so they would know that once they get past the bridge, essentially, that there would be a 35 zone. I don't, Dan or Tom, can you help me out here? And go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead.
Reduced speed limit signs are typically used anytime that the speed limit is changing by more than 10 miles an hour. Otherwise, they say that it's kind of extra signs that you really don't need. So as you're coming from the 55, there's already a 45 mile an hour sign as you round the corner towards the bridge, and then dropping it to 35 and then 25. You really wouldn't need to have those types of signs. It's just redundancy.
What about the parking on the south side near A-Bears?
Dan,
Is that something we can address through this?
Yeah, I don't disagree that would be worth considering. What I would suggest is these are really 2 separate actions. If the board would make a motion first on the speed limit. If you concur in the speed limit, then we would move that forward to Wood County, and then a separate motion on parking situation. And we would go to Wood County with both of those, but I think it's 2 separate motions.
Thank you. The reason, I mean, it isn't that it's just a special area. All we would be doing is extending the no parking the no parking is on the church side, okay, along there. So we just extend it to the west. About 3 or 4 blocks. And that would discourage people from parking on both sides of the street. It's a safety factor. I mean, even though the speed limit will be 35 through there, we all know that people drive about 10 miles over the speed limit. And so that's one thing I think we really need to consider. Thank you.
And I agree with what you want to do with the parking. But my question to you, Dan, that's not on the agenda as part of it. Are we covered on that, or should that be at another meeting? Because we're not talking about parking here.
Yeah, that is a good question. It's not specifically just dealing with the speed limit there. So
Right.
I think be safe. I probably put that on the next agenda.
Well, it's actually probably not a decision we can actually make at the
No, but it'll be
BPW, but we could
forwarded to
just
the
recommending
county.
it to the county.
Right. But I think we have to do that next time. It makes sense. It makes sense to do it,
I
but
don't have a problem.
anybody else on the speed limit? Mr. Rosendich?
My first question is Sycamore far enough? I mean, with the walking trail coming in, Bears parking, and that being residential for the next several years, is Sycamore even far enough to make it, to reduce the speed? Would it be something maybe going all the way down, walking trail is going to be? Because now if we're gonna add signs now, then if we readdress it in 4 or 5 years and the county has to step in and do it all over again.
I think we would change in both directions this time. So from Sycamore heading out west would be reduced to 35, as well as inbound traffic would be, speed limit would be reduced.
So the speed would be 35 all the way out to the
Yes.
city limits of Marshfield, the last road? Okay, that was what,
Yep.
clarification.
Go ahead. Oh, you're good. Okay. Any other comments? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 10, review of one-way alley in the West 600 block of North Central Avenue, presented by Tom Turchie, city engineer. Tom?
As you recall, last year, or about 6 months ago, we had a discussion on changing the alley behind Weiler's store to one-way. And after that was done, there was a request to take a look at it and just see how it's functioning as a one-way. The only issue that I've ever heard about in the last 6 months about this alley was a concern of the crushed culvert, which was blocking water in the ditch upstream, but that actually has been fixed by the street division here in the last week. And they lengthened the culvert and reditched, and so that problem has been solved. We contacted the police department to see if they've had any contact or issues that have arisen due to this change. And they have not had any concerns or issues that have been brought to their attention. So therefore, I'd recommend no changes and that the alley remain one-way northbound.
Do we need a motion? What do you think?
I think it would be okay to have a motion.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion, Mr. Fisher. Second, Mr. Bargander. Comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 11, recommended items for future agendas. Mr. Fire.
I've gotten some discussion about the moving of the mailbox to the property, Baltus property. Is that being handled? I get people talking about that, especially since we'll be getting a lot of rain. People have to get out of their car to get wet.
Yeah, we got to be a little careful when we say items for future agendas and then we have discussion on it.
No, I don't want a discussion. I just want to make sure that we get something back.
Okay,
Yeah,
That's all
I'll
we
give you a 30-second update.
All right.
on it. Yes, the postmaster has gotten approval to move the mailbox, but if you've noticed, they're working on the roof on the post office right now. And the contractor is using that area of the Baltus parking lot for their vehicles and staging. And they didn't want to have the mailbox traffic interfering with the contractor traffic. So once the roof is done at the post office, then that box will be.
okay. Anybody else? Okay, a motion to adjourn. Mr. Fisher, motion, second by Mr. Mr. Rosendich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, we are adjourned.